Arca is the professional name of Alejandra Garcia Rodriguez, apologies for pronunciation, who is an experimental musician and producer from Venezuela. She identifies as non-binary. As well as her own stuff, she's worked with Kanye West and Björk quite extensively, and other people. Her first album as Arca came out in 2014, and she has released 8 albums in total. But the last 5 are a quintet. They're called Kick 1 to Kick 5, and they were released quite close together. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was her second album, and it's my first encounter with her in any album or any sense. I would broadly call it experimental electronic. So Wikipedia, under genre, has listed experimental electronic, well, with it so far, IDM, which means IDM. I thought that would be EDM, which is electronic dance music, so I'm not sure what I means in this case. Glitch, dubstep, industrial, techno, ambient, noise, and world. And I can kind of see most of those. I'm not necessarily sure what dubstep is, and not sure about world here, but there are some kind of ethnic instrument sounds being used at times, so maybe that's from there. It's instrumental. It's not unmusical, which sounds like a faint praise or a backhanded compliment. But what I mean is that there's a lot of experimental electronic stuff, which is basically all about sounds and noise, and this has musical elements to it. In fact, quite a reasonable amount of that. There are notes and there's chords. There aren't anything that you particularly maybe would call tunes, but there's other sounds as well. So there are electronic sound effects and other sound effects. There's snatches of sample music in one place. There's some speech and some snatches of singing, but in general, it's instrumental. You would consider. One thing that I think is different from a lot of music of this type is that it's not beat based, so it doesn't have a strong rhythm, and it's not targeted to be dance music, I don't think. It does generally have bars. Not all tracks have something that I could recognise as a repeated kind of pattern of beats in there, but quite a few of them did. And it's the thing that's different here is that it's intricate and experimental production. So there's a lot of different processes being used. I'll pick a few out. A lot of them I wouldn't be able to tell you what was going on anyway, but there's some stuttering sounds, as if a particular sound is being turned on and off very fast, and sometimes the speed of that stuttering changes. Sometimes the speed of stuttering is so fast that it becomes a note in its own right. There are filters and sweeps and other things like that, and which kind of are recognisable techniques, but generally pushed to extremes. There's also microtune variation, which is a term I've just made up, meaning that there are bits where it's pulled in and out of, or that the tuning is slightly changed, kind of up and down a little bit around where you might think the note was. That is the one that I find most difficult personally, because I struggle with stuff that's out of tune. But there are also in there, recognisable instrument notes like piano sounds and things like that. They're quite on the back seat here, but they're definitely there. All of it's been put together with aesthetics in mind, so it all kind of gives a different overall effects and feels, and it's definitely done in a skillful way. I would say that for me it appealed to my brain. I would say as an album it's in some ways quite extraordinary. But I also did find that at times when I was listening to it, I lapsed in concentration and got distracted by other things. It's easy to let it become background. Or I found it so. Some of the notes from critics on Wikipedia they've tended to get a bit kind of lyrical on it. So, for example, Mark Richardson of Pitchfork, according to Wikipedia, said it turns a fixation on porousness and instability into a kind of spiritual pursuit. And I don't really know what that means. And I sometimes wonder if there's a certain kind of critic that starts to get quite pretentious when they haven't got maybe haven't got anything helpful to say. I'm sure they think it's helpful, but I don't understand it. So for me, I'm going to say much more simply, I would say it's interesting if you like experimental electronic music. I quite like experimental electronic music, and I find it interesting. I'd love to know what you think, so please let me know in the comments below. That's it from me for now.